Because a lot of times when people are stuck in victimhood and helplessness, they know perfectly well what they don't want, but they lack the agency of at least pointing a finger on what they would want if that wasn't the case, because that's implicitly also already in the message. I don't want people to be mean to me. Oh, so you want people to respect you? It's like, oh yeah, I want people to respect me. And all of a sudden, that's a really different energy of, wait a second, yeah, I want to be respected.
The moment the energy of anger comes up in their body, it's an immediate resistance, immediate sense of this needs to either go back down or go out. These are the two options, but it can't be here. What the fuck? And then how they do it is they don't interpret it as force, they interpret it as nervousness, anxiousness, just like arousal that they don't really like, you know, I feel nervous all the time, it's weird, but they can't interpret it as, oh, this is my power, this is my fire, this is my drive. Welcome to the Spiritual Bypasses podcast. In today's episode, maybe you can hear it from a voice, maybe you can't. I went through a deep process in the end where I was guided by Tim and Ashley, who are here with me. And it felt like mom and dad were guiding me through some emotional roller coaster. I learned a lot. I shared about the learnings. You can learn a lot from the process as well. How to connect the somatics, how to work with your parts, how to be in touch with the loving presence that you are beyond your parts. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Before that, we talked about anger as well, anger in men, and like the different kind of like levels of repression or ways of repression. On one hand, the one that is more inward facing, on one hand, the anger that is more like outward going, and what you can do to work with your anger as well. So Ashley was sharing her secrets. So stay tuned. Listen to this episode. It's the last one of this season, but we will come back with another one with better quality, new ideas, and much more. So stay tuned and see you on the other side.
Welcome to a new episode of the Spiritual Bypassers. Season 1 is almost, I don't know if it's coming to an end today. We're really well prepared, as you can tell. Season 1 is about to come to an end. Let us know if you have any wishes for Season 2. We're approaching 20 episodes. That means, I think it's like about is it half a year since we started?
Yeah, about
Like
that.
5 months or something.
Mhm.
Such a long time. That it's really amazing because we all have our issues with consistency and stuff, and this is really something that is like, we're actually doing this, and we're all like taking you all with us. It's a really cool thing, and I just reflected. The topic of today, as we said last week, is anger, part 2. Um, and I just remembered when we were recording an episode in a wellness facility that I cannot name here because we can all get arrested and face years in prison if I tell you where it was exactly. But we were recording a live episode, our first and only live episode up to this day. And we were playing insult ping pong. We were playing insult ping pong live. And I just remembered that was a really beautiful episode because we had the insult ping pong. We worked with my trigger because I was hurt and frustrated and also angry. And then I just remembered the episode took a turn. And towards the end, I was going into like full channeling mode. And Jannick and Ashley were looking like at me like I was the dad they always wanted, and I was just giving them blessing after blessing after blessing. The comments said the same thing. Such an important and such a touching moment coming after playing insult ping pong and triggering us on purpose, triggering each other on purpose. So I don't know why that exactly came up, but there's something to be said about insult ping pong, something to be said about triggers, and something to be said about anger. And like we said in the last episode, oftentimes we think that anger is a quote unquote bad emotion. And to be honest, being angry can put stress on the nervous system and on the body, but we are all into allowing emotions and finding the goals within them. And that's what we talked about last week. And we want to talk about this week. And in the um, episode I just referred to, after I was working with my trigger, there was a nice energy of connection there. I felt good within myself. And I sort of, I imagine it, I was going into my inner chambers, harvesting the gold there, and I was able to um, gift that to you guys. So that's one way of looking at the process of releasing quote unquote anger. We're not releasing the anger, not getting rid of it. We want to release it from its cage and access it. So that's what we will talk about today. And Ashley has some questions, something to say. I can tell
You can always tell,
she's
right?
all
Like,
nervous. She's all nervous.
she
Yeah,
gets more, I get more
we're professionals.
fidgety.
We're doing this since half a year now. Half a year, 6 months, hours, days spent together. So we know each other. And I know that Ashley has to say something.
The only project I willingly do without getting paid that brings me joy and I would still happily continue doing. So hashtag
Wow.
someone sponsor us for this, but
Yeah,
so one thing that just came up with you talking, and we just alluded to this before we came onto the recording, about also the topic of roasting, because incel ping pong is in a way a form of roasting, which people also do it with their friends. They also do in forms of even watching on TV show, you watch the celebrities roasted, and it's like some form of intense enjoyment there, but there is a form of anger within the insults, within the using someone's wound against them and for a form of that's like connection. Because I also know that for a lot of people who say like, yeah, well, I'm not a very angry person, but they can be sometimes very passive aggressive, and that things that people say in passive aggressivity, I think there's a statistic, it's like 80% of what people say, like in sarcasm or like when they don't mean it, they're actually somewhere they do mean it. And they just can't find a way to directly say it. So they say it as a joke, or they say it as like, oh, I'm just being sarcastic. I'm like, but that came from somewhere. So somewhere deep down, that is actually a part of you that kind of believes it. So, I mean, I'm also curious about that, how you guys, if you enjoy roasts, if not, because I know that, like you say, after the insult ping pong, when it's held in a space where the parts and the feelings can be held from both sides, maybe not taking it so personally, so having worked on your ego a bit, that not everything is a personal attack, and yeah, can go very, very meta with that. But yeah, maybe we can do more of these because I enjoy roasts when done in a way that you know there's still connection afterwards.
I like that. I mean, yes, if you are very identified with your ego and you build this area of where you can be attacked, it's not so fun. But if you have like this playful attitude towards life, but also towards yourself, and you're like, yeah, I know I'm a fucked up human being, and I have all these like things, and go ahead, attack me. And it's actually interesting to see what other people will attack me with, because there's something to learn. And if I get triggered, there's even more to learn, because it's like apparently this is something that I feel insecure about. And if you can use it like that, I think it's amazing. And at the same time, a lot of times, like you said, Ashley, in real life, it's not really coming from a loving place. It's like people pretend it's coming from a joking, funny place, but it's actually not. And so actually recently in the last month also with my partner, I've started to roast people less, because I started to become more aware of the place where it was coming from. And sometimes it was coming from insecurity. Sometimes it was also coming from like almost like a sense of meaninglessness. And I was just like trying to like, this was my baseline conversation, was just to like be funny and accuse people of things and then say, oh, it's just ironic, and just being ironic all the time and sarcastic all the time. And then I realized, no, this doesn't have any depth. This doesn't have any meaning. And it can be nice to be light, but for me, the balance for me was to come back to a bit more like seriousness and not go on every joke and every like insult that I can find. That was kind of like my journey, and being more loving, and then like facing, why can't you be loving? Why can't you like appreciate somebody else? Why can't you tell them, hey, like I really appreciate you, I really like you. Instead, you're like insulting them, like this is what I do with my brothers. And then I say, this is just my love language. I'm just like I just insult my brothers. That's my love language. And it's like, come on, you can do better than that. And I'm not saying there's no place for it. I'm just saying like consider it. Consider why you're doing it.
This has been a huge, huge part of my journey because there's something also to be said with the British humor that's also like sarcastic, it's very self-deprecating. Like we really don't mind mocking ourselves. I think that's also why I really didn't struggle with the insult ping pong game when I was with a bunch of Germans because I was like, hey, I grew up with a double Scorpio female household, me and my sister, and British and etc. But I had a lot of feedback in the past that I remember being like super, super, super sarcastic, like as a teenager, as a young adult, also entering into the male corporate world. It was like a way of also surviving in a way. Like there'd be sometimes all these little digs made at you because of like being a woman or like, yeah, you're gonna go make a coffee, love, and then like you have to come back with something that's like a defense in a way. But I remember heading into the more of the spiritual world, like the company that we used to work in, and being told like, yeah, like this is all just a mask, like you're using your joking and your sarcasm as a way to like, yeah, be popular or a way to just like be seen, and it's easy to make people laugh so they don't see anything deeper. And whilst I could definitely take on some of that, I was also being told that by someone who's clearly autistic, who probably also just really struggles to make people laugh and to really connect with people in that way. So it was like trying to find like where's the truth in it and where are you just also maybe annoyed that you're not the center of attention and not finding making people laugh just by making a silly face or something. Because it's also like I love doing that. And the reflection on that I know is like also majority of comedians are also the ones who are very depressed and who are the ones who sometimes decide to like there's a very high rate of unaliving in comedy. So there's really a fine line between like where is it too much, where is it a defense, and where is it actually just because you simply enjoy clowning around and making people laugh. What I will add, and then we can change to something else, is that I'm going to start doing improv.
Mm.
So improv comedy in
Oh.
person. Because I realized the last few weeks I've been teaching some of the embodiment classes at the yoga studio where I give sessions for the therapy. And I used it as a chance to really start with newbies, like people who don't know about expressive breathing and they've maybe never done shaking, and to really see if I could, on a layman's term, do activating life force, activating anger in a way that doesn't terrify people so that they actually come back. And in that, it feels a bit like a drama class at times with like making people be like animals and playing around with the voices. And I realized like, hey, I actually think I can't remember lines. Like I'm really bad at remembering scripts, but there's some parts of what I enjoy doing that's like this goofy clowning, acting out comedy. And one of the guys who came to this class was like, "Yeah, I'm an actor. I do improv." I was like, "Ah, this is the sign. I was just thinking about this." So maybe for season one, season two, we'll talk more about that journey because I imagine that there's a lot of emotions that come up with it because you're channeling pure emotions through it as well. Because Tim and I have tried to do it sometimes, like on our travels or like play around a bit. In Mexico, we had some very funny moments of just acting out scenes and people like, how do you do this? It's like, yeah, you just get lost in the character and then you just go into comedy with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a tangent, but I thought it was important to mention.
I'm looking forward to that. And um, so I wanted to say something to the topic of humor, because I think it's also important to see that this way of sarcasm and this way of like this way of communicating through sarcasm and mocking is also a means to connect. Like there is the shadow, and then there's also the golden shadow, which is I do this because it brings me something that I need. It actually fulfills a need. When I talk to my like this is I would say like mostly with like a male dominated way of communicating. When I talk to my buddies about you know or yeah, we just mock each other and we're just hyping each other up in that way, and it's just one insult after another. What you can tell is they are in some way they are vibing with each other. They are in some way, shape, or form connected. Like they're having a conversation. There's something going on where they're just sync up through this way of mocking. And this obviously is not it's not the deep connection that human beings actually want. But I think in order to demask this, it's not only important to feel like, okay, this is coming from like an angry place or whatever, but also to see that this is a substitute for a need that I have. And I think with sarcasm, it's often, like Ashley said, being recognized, being special, also like a subtle power play of, yeah, I'm better than you, like I'm improving myself, and also just a means to connect and to stay in connection. And this is also, and I think it's interesting to play with that in a like in a setting of acting, like consciously acting it out, because we make it conscious. Usually, for example, when we roast someone in our when we roast a friend or something, we're not 100% conscious of it. And also, if when we insult someone, it's more like something is coming up within us, and we just act it out without thinking about it. What we do in acting is we take this principle, but we make it conscious. And this is also why ping insult ping pong works so well, because we're not just insulting someone, we're insulting someone with an intention that is actually healing. And all the triggers, all the insults are, coming from the unconscious, but they are viewed at least in a light of consciousness. And I think this is also the benefit of acting, that you can just act out consciously what you normally maybe act out unconsciously, and you can make it very clear. And yeah, like when we talk about, the male topics with anger, I think this dominance and loneliness, like hiding behind masks, which sarcasm and this broy way of connecting is definitely, or can be, a mask if it's done too much. Then yeah, we touched on two important points, I think.
Yeah. It's also a nice segue, because I wanted to ask you guys today about your experience as men with anger, because obviously I can talk a lot about the female side, but the perceptions of, like, there's two different archetypes you can look at. There's the gym bro, like the guy who's like, yeah, joshing around, like doesn't think emotions are something to take seriously. Anger is something that you can exert through aggression. And in reality, underneath that is maybe like a little boy that needs his mummy to hold his hand so he can cry a bit about things that also make him sad. Versus on the other side of the spectrum, you see a lot of guys who are repressing their anger. We've talked about nice guys a lot already in this podcast. And they're also the ones that are quite dangerous, because the anger is the thing in the shadows. So the ones who, they're very passive, not tapping into their drive, not tapping into the things they want to do. And on the contrary, as a woman, they're the ones that are really nice to you when they talk to you in the bar, and then the moment you say like, yeah, I'm not interested, they snap and they're like really aggressive, and they're like, yeah, well, you should know, like, your friend is way hotter than you, and like, yeah, you women have got it coming, you never take it serious, you come out looking like this, and you wearing all this makeup just for a guy like me to come, a nice guy like me to come talk to you. That's the like very shadowy, darker side of this unprocessed anger, maybe things from the past that they haven't cleared through perceptions around relationship to women as well. So, not saying that that's you guys, but
Actually, speaking from experience, that was like,
that's how I met Tim.
Too precise, way too precise.
No,
yeah.
Well,
I don't
met
think
Tim and had the best hug. One of the best hugs of my 2022 was with
yeah,
Tim.
yeah, yeah. You
When I met him,
started
I cried,
crying.
so it was very nice.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim
And
is a
then
good
I
hugger.
then I ate, oh my God, this was on a
I
festival.
ate your
And
what? I
My
ate
what?
your what?
I ate Ashley's dates. She offered me dates. She was like, you want to
Okay.
have a date?
Okay.
And now we're talking about dates, and there's no
Uh,
coincidences. There's no,
That's
you're
we
you're
haven't been
still
dating, but we have been dating also.
up to this
You've
day,
not,
you're still eating her date,
yeah,
her dating
can we stop talking
stories.
about eating
Still
my
eating
food?
them.
I'm still consuming the dating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whatever.
That's my mind is
Reference,
like,
Tim is like a brother to me, and we've never dated. Continue, Yannick.
nice to
I
put that on.
shall.
I would never date him. Ugh,
I
no,
would
no,
never
he's
date
just a friend.
Yeah. Friend zoned. Okay, he's a nice guy.
you. Both are
Uh,
podcast zoned.
I don't think this like snapping back into this like aggressive thing when you get rejected, that's like particularly something to connect to the repressed anger. I think that might be something that you've experienced, but I've also experienced guys who have repressed anger, and then when they get rejected, they still put the anger inwards. It's still not like safe for them to put it outwards, and they are still like, oh yeah, it must mean I'm a horrible person and I fucked it up again, and I'm just always in the friend zone, and like in this like
Yeah,
drowning
they're
in
really more on the
self-pity.
spectrum of repressing it.
Yeah, it depends. Of course, it
I do
depends.
want to add though that like this is not just an Ashley experience. This is a global, universal experience of millions of
Yeah,
women
yeah.
a day to experience that kind of unsafety when someone initially presents as like friendly, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. And of course, there's even more repression that can happen, and that goes more into then like their body getting sick and depression setting in and lack of self-worth. And like the phrase in English we have is like we call it a wet flannel guy. Like he's just like just a hanging wet. It's a very mean
Oh,
word. I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's
like a
just like helps
Waschlappen.
with
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, this
yeah,
helps with imagining a little bit more. So continue.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like there's so many stories about women getting severely beaten up and also like yeah, to a point where they can't continue living, and that's like a very severe and sad form of violence. And I also, it's hard to pinpoint what exactly it is, but what's obvious is that in these moments, there's a really, really intense amount of frustration and anger and aggression and yeah, I mean, what needs to happen in order for someone to beat up a person that is rejecting you, that is telling you, I don't like, essentially, I don't love you, like I don't want to be around you, like you are nice, and then this having such an effect that so much energy is released that people just go completely mad.
yeah.
I mean,
But
yeah,
what I want to say though is that it might be very confusing to say people have anger issues, because when you say that, people think of anger issues as, yeah, they are always angry or they are overly angry. But like Ashley mentioned earlier, people would probably call it when they talk about themselves like, I have an issue with sadness, I'm always sad, or like I don't have any drive, I feel a lack of motivation, I feel a lack of self-worth, like all these kind of things, everything that's inward focused. It's like, I am wrong, I something's wrong with me, it's my fault, like all these this kind of energy. And there's these two, if you wanna put them in two categories, there's these two kind of categories of feelers, like the ones that are more on the sadness spectrum, and everything is inward and it's my fault, and then the one that like put it all outwards. Anger is like more the outwards energy. It's like it's their fault, it's them. I'm gonna go and change it. I'm gonna go and get what I deserve, and like this is like drive, and they never look inside. They never actually acknowledge that they are sad about something because they feel like sadness is useless. It's like, why would I be sad? It can't do anything for me. And the other spectrum is like, why would I be angry? Anger doesn't do anything to me, or it does harm, or I saw it with my parents or with myself as a child that it did a lot of harm. So there's no use to it. So these kind of stories, whatever it is that you tell yourself to repress that certain like spectrum on the emotional scale. And yeah, so I think what we could talk about is, if you have these kind of symptoms, which now we diagnose as repressed anger, um, Ashley, like what was the word again for the guys who are just hanging? The mean one?
Wet flannel.
Wet flannel. What to do as a wet flannel? Like, well, like, like, I mean, like they get angry and they're like, anger doesn't get me anywhere, It's like it's not worth it to be angry, or anger does harm, or all these kind of beliefs.
Yeah. There's an interesting, you say this because I just was editing a reel yesterday about this where I was teaching it in Bali, so it's funny the coincidence. So that what I also noticed is that you could be on that spectrum in different environments. So there could be maybe more in your relationships, you're more fiery and feel more comfortable to like you maybe have little explosions or work like phrases coming out and things that doesn't feel so contained versus maybe in the workplace you feel really inferior, like you have no power there, you have imposter syndrome, you feel like it's not my place to get angry, I'm not allowed to get angry, so you go more into the repressive side. So just for the listeners to note that you don't have to be put in a box. We're also not putting you in a box of lack of anger issues or too much anger issues. Like everything is always a moving spectrum. You are always ever changing. If you're noticing that you are on the like more repressive side, so the wet flannel, I always like to think of this kind of like water suction, like it's like this draining going down feeling where it's like sometimes really hard to get up and out of that. This is oftentimes people who are meditating a lot, who are doing too much inward reflection. It's like majority of my clients come to me on that side of the spectrum, like 80%. This is the people who are not going into their body. So what we're talking about in all of these episodes, if you've worked with me separately, you know that even the simple aspects of if you're laying down, you have chronic fatigue, or you're really tired, or you just like don't have the energy to get up, it doesn't mean that you need to suddenly go do like an hour-long class of something. It can be, for I had a client this week that simple TRE, like a rocking of the hips, this gentle starting to awaken the energy, as if you're like a snow globe that's like gently starting to get shaken up more. Doesn't mean that you suddenly need to pick yourself up and like throw yourself into being shaken like crazy, because that would also feel too alien, too much. You want to build your window of tolerance bit by bit to new experiences, to new feelings, to new parts of yourself. So for a lot of my clients, like for the women, I actually suggest to them to go to like a boxing, like a HIIT workout class, or something that involves also using your strength, using going to the gym and lifting some more weights, like getting more in touch with the force inside, the activation inside, at the level whichever you're at. Like if you're coming from chronic illness, of course, don't go straight to the gym. But maybe you're not at that stage and you're like, I just want to feel more. And that actually just involves getting the body and the muscles and the connection between coming out of, like in nervous system regulation, we talk about this 50-50, like it's good to be 50% with your awareness in, 50 out. I'd say people on the repressive side are more like 80% in and 20% out for things like food or tasks, or when you need to do something on the outside, but that they're like way more safer feeling on the inside. So getting the senses involved more, getting yourself more present into the outside moment, not just always going in and looping and looping and looping on different topics. So
Yeah.
that's what a lot of my classes are. It's like really, really basic. Like David Bedrick uses the word radical soma, and that basically just means getting your facial expressions involved, getting the external communication of feelings. So like showing with your hands how a feeling might feel. It would be making a humming, making a sound, all the things we do in emotional release. Like if you had to move, that's why dance can be super helpful for expressing the outside of what's your shoulder tension feeling. And further down that spectrum is where you would see like the anger classes I do. But that's quite far down the process of unshaming, from taking a big old breath versus punching or humping into a pillow in a class with other people. Like there's a lot of little steps in between.
Yeah.
But that one always gets people. I love the pillow humping.
I love that. And to me, it feels like, I mean, you recommended for me to go to a class as well, to a boxing class, and I'm going to do that tomorrow actually. So thank you for that advice. Took care of that, and I'm curious to see what things will come up for me, because I'm trying, of course, to do this boxing class kind of closely connected and aware of the somatics inside. Because I think if you just do it and you're not aware of your inside world while you do it, it's nice as well. It's a nice workout and stuff, but it has less to do with processing emotions than,
Yeah.
and I want to use it for that as well. And I feel like a lot of people are also like just doing it to release, but it's not really healthy because they are not in touch with the anger really. It's like it comes and then they just box out and I feel so released now. Yes, but why do you have to release it? Because you can't hold it. You can't be with it. You can't be in touch with it. So it needs to go immediately when it comes. It doesn't feel integrated. And so I feel like the goal in the end, like, yes, as a first step, get in touch with it. If you can't even allow it and you're always depressed, allow the force, but then learn to be with it as well. And I feel like a lot of people who can't be angry, they don't have the sense that they have control over their life. It's like, I don't have control. I can't control anything. The world is mean. It doesn't matter anyways. And like these kind of stories. So then the moment the energy of anger comes up in their body, it's an immediate resistance, immediate sense of this needs to either go back down or go out. These are the two options, but it can't be here. What the fuck? And then how they do it is they don't interpret it as force. They interpret it as nervousness, anxiousness, or like just like arousal that they don't really like, you know, it's like, I feel nervous all the time. It's weird, but they can't interpret it as, oh, this is my power, this is my fire, this is my drive. Wow, amazing. Like this is like if I really allow this, it changes my whole posture. It floods through my body, through my veins. It's like it's pushing me forward because it's too dangerous. It's like they're not used to it. It's like something that needs to go away.
Yeah, you say the word drive. I love using that word because also even power can be quite a triggering word. Like, oh, get into your power, but because we live in a society that's also so much power is exploited, it's also a word that can be a bit triggering. Like this sense of drive really brings it into that like personal perspective of like okay, like I can see that I'm driving a car, but the car is my life and I am the driver and I'm going forward. I yesterday did a post about the journey that I had of how anger started for me, and that the reason also the word alchemy is very important in this work is because of course it's like using that fire and drive to do something, to make a change, to shift. And a lot of my clients I notice are you first need to honor the helpless part, the part that's like I can't have any control, I'm so sad about that, the grief, the hurt that needs to arise. And then there's a really beautiful exercise we do at the retreats. Even Tim did this when he joined the one in the summer called Words Unsaid. And yeah,
Even
even
Tim, who
Tim.
is like
Wow.
healed everything. So that's
Yeah.
fine.
And
I mean, look at me. It's not that I
guys,
never
let me
get sick.
finish. My train of thoughts will go away otherwise. When you do this exercise, it's very easy to first be in the sadness, and the person doing it is like really sinking and like, why did you do this? And I can't believe it, and I'm so hurt. And there's like a tiny shift that sometimes has to be prompted by the facilitator, but sometimes people find this shift naturally, that the sadness has come through, and then you feel for a moment like something changes in their eyes, like this calmness comes through, and they're like, you know what? How dare you have done this? How dare you have, whatever the story is, treated me this way, said this stuff, not been there? Like, that is not acceptable. And you see this natural progression that people shift from helplessness, victimhood, the world is against me, happening to me, that the fire kicks in and it's like it burns away those aspects of like I don't have any control, and it's like no, like this was not okay. And then comes the healthy directional anger in that moment, like with words that had to be said. But that can be translated to so much of your life. Like you're sat in your room and you don't want to do anything and you're procrastinating and you have no drive and you're like unsure of where to go, unsure of what to do. Sometimes for me, like even yesterday, I just stood in my room and had some music on and was just like doing some pushing and waving my arms and like really feeling that force energy as if you're like throwing things, but like you're not actually throwing things, but feeling that in your arms. After that, I was like, oh, I know what to do now. Perfect. There's the clarity, and I'm going to go do something about it. But in the past, before I knew about this, that could be days of like being in this fog, of being in this swampy, I don't know where, what, who I am, what's important. There's so much overwhelm. The reason that the body is so important is because it brings you back into like really what's important and moves a lot of the thought, mind
Yeah,
chatter out of the way.
yeah. I love what you said there about having to feel the helplessness. And I feel like something that I needed to learn and remind myself recently actually is, yeah, life is mean. So what? It's not supposed to be not mean. And like as long as you are caught in a story of like, yeah, but life is mean. Yeah, but okay, great that you tell me all of this, but life is mean. And they don't, it ends there. They don't go beyond this. They're like, yeah. And then you tell them, yeah, life is mean. Life
Mm,
can be mean, at least.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
what?
and
And exactly. And yes, you can't control everything. And yes, you don't know. Like there's so much uncertainty in life. And you can control things. And like it's not one or the other. And to just really be with that, it's like the story stops. It's like, yeah, but life is so mean. Yeah, it's mean. What do you mean? It's mean. But then everything is horrible. No, like life is mean. So what? So what you gonna do now? Now that life is mean, what you gonna do now? Like continue crying about it over and over and over again. Yeah, like many loops, many loops, many loops. And then at some point you accept it. And it's the same with the past. Yeah, but my past was so horrible. Yeah, it was. It was really horrible what happened there. Like terrible. And probably traumatized you. Yes. And now, like what you gonna do now? Now, like
Yeah.
this sense of acceptance that yes, life can be fucking mean. Yes, the past was horrible. Yes, you don't know what to do or whatever. And it's this like either you're staying in this and you're using it as in like an excuse and as like just staying in the story, or you take a break and you're like, yes, and yes, it's mean and
Yeah. Yeah, Victor, I think I said this in the last episode. Viktor Frankl, a brilliant psychotherapist, talked about this a lot, that between you and whatever you experience, whatever stimulus you experience in that moment, for example, that you feel like you're threatened by the world, overwhelmed by the world, and the world is mean to you, between that and you, there always is a space. There always is a space. And he claimed that emotional well-being is determined by how aware you are of that space between what comes up, like what happens to you, so to speak, and you. Because when I hear you speaking, Jannick, and I feel into how that feels like when you're like, oh, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. There's no like there's a complete, and in parts work we call it a complete blending. You're completely entangled with the emotion, and there's no moment where you're like, wait, stop. I don't want this actually. Wait a second. And you and in parts work, you literally say to the part, please take 2 steps back. And when that happens, they connect. The people connect to themselves. They're like, oh, wait a second, I am not that emotion. And from that point onwards, I find that's from like a more systemic, solution-focused way of thinking about it is, okay, the world is shit and it's everyone else's fault and I feel terrible. What would you want instead? Because a lot of times when people are stuck in victimhood and helplessness, they know perfectly well what they don't want, but they lack the agency of at least pointing a finger on what they would want if that wasn't the case, because that's implicitly also already in the message. Yeah, I don't want people to be mean to me. Oh, so you want people to respect you? And it's like, oh yeah, I want people to respect me. And all of a sudden, that's a really different energy of, wait a second, yeah, I want to be respected, or I want to feel loved, and I'm gonna fight for me wanting to feel loved, being loved actually, and I'm gonna get that. But if you're just annoyed by everything and nothing at the same time, you're you most likely won't get to that place. So I think the first step is always awareness and becoming conscious and having like a foot in the door when you're flooded by whatever beliefs and feelings you have.
yeah.
It's law of attraction also, right? What you focus on will come into existence. So if you're like, because I remember when I first started this journey and I was like, I'm gonna be a burnout coach and help people with burnout. But then I realized that like a million times a day I was saying, thinking, or writing the word burnout and focusing on like what you're going away from as opposed to what you want to go towards. And when I made that shift, it was like, that feels way lighter. It feels so much nicer in my system than like focusing on what you don't want, which we also
Yeah.
talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
I also
And
didn't want to interrupt him and be like, stop, hammer time, but I'm going to do it now. So I'm going to say that to your inner part. It's be like, stop, parts work
stop.
time.
2 steps back.
That's what
Stop.
time.
Exactly. Hold on. Hold on a minute.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. Who
Wait a
are
minute.
you?
You're just a part.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's that's a good thing. This
Go ahead,
wait a
Jannick.
minute.
Wait a minute. What's happening here? Wait, who are you? Who are you? Because it's not me, because I'm triggered, so it can't be me. Who are you?
That brings me to a brilliant insight that I had after I've been to the sauna. And as we all know, being in the sauna is amazing. It
Yes,
releases a lot of stuff.
agreed.
And after that, the insights flood in. And then I had an insight, a really funny one. And I think it's brilliant, not to pat myself on the shoulder too much, but it goes in the same direction. Because when you say, I'm angry. You can just be like, oh, hi, angry. How are you? Or
Angry.
I'm really sad today. Oh, hey, sad. What's up? And you
Tim
immediately have
explained
like
this
an
to me
entry
way
point
better
to,
on a voice note because he said it's like being a dad, like a dad joke that when you're like, "Oh, I'm sad," and they're like, "Oh, hi, sad.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm Bob. How are you?" Like that's how you described it. It was really funny in that way.
It is,
Like,
yeah, my delivery
Tim, be
was
funny.
be funnier, Tim.
I liked your positioning when you said that. Just like a toxic coach. Tim, come on, be funny.
Come
If
on.
you want to be rich like me, start being funny, okay?
Exactly.
Follow my
If you
10
want to
steps
be
of
happy, stop being
funnier.
sad. Yeah. Okay. So did we want to do a role play? I wanted to maybe after I said this one thing. So yes, step number one, you're like, yo, I'm triggered. Who is this? And if you ask your anger, how are you? Probably your anger will reply, I'm angry. But there's probably more to it than just that. And you can ask them, and like you can speak to yourself. You do that all the time anyways. But I want to go one step further to something that we touched on in other episodes, which is the existential kink. And you don't have to call it existential kink, but it's so direct because we talked about, yeah, what do you want then? What do you want to focus on then if you don't want to focus on the helplessness or whatever? But then also see how you enjoy the helplessness as well. It's like such a big piece of the puzzle for me is to acknowledge that it's just not true that you hate the helplessness. It's that you love to hate the helplessness. You love to hate what you feel. Like this sense of I hate I have it and I hate it. I have it and I hate it. You love it. And do you know how I know? Because you do it and you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep doing it. And so it tells you that a part of you that has to be unconscious, because the moment it becomes conscious, you're not attached to the quote unquote negative feeling anymore. So it's like an unconscious part of you that really enjoys it. And their parts work has a nice approach to it too, which is like finding the utility in that part or in that feeling. But to me, processing and really releasing emotion, not in the sense of the energy is too high and now I need to release it out because I can't hold it anymore, but actually letting it go, actually integrating it, which is the same to me. It becoming just a natural part of your spectrum and not this particular thing that is there and then needs to be fought against and like I need to do sessions to do something with it. It's just something that's there, like you see the sunshine and then the sunshine is gone again, like this kind of relationship. To have this kind of relationship with your emotion, you need to see how you love it. In my opinion, you need to see what part of you loves it. And like the most direct path to that is to just cut the story, feel the sensation in your body, like we did in the episode with Tim, where I guided him through an existential king practice. Go watch that episode if you haven't seen it. And then you get in touch with it and you change your relationship to that emotion and you're like, ooh, actually, like I never thought that could be possible, but I kind of like the sensation. I kind of like the sensation of helplessness. It's juicy. It's very, very, very juicy. And yeah, then like it's like a miracle, but this kind of emotion starts to leave you because you have acknowledged that you love it and you don't get off on this fight anymore of like this needs to go away. It's like this what you resist persists thing. You stop resisting it and then it doesn't persist.
It makes me think of right now, obviously not where Jannick is because it's warm, but in Europe right now and it's cold. And every time you breathe out, you see the air. You see the like steam from your air and then it goes. And that's kind of what Oni said about like the sunlight. Like I really feel like that. It's something that's in you and then you can breathe it out and you see it and it's really cool. And then, okay, bye. Okay, next breath. Okay, here we go. That cycle continues. I also sense that we are very overdue Jannick having a demo session at some point as well.
Mm.
Oh,
That's
Tim,
true.
you
Oh
see
my
this? I was like, is there a
God.
part of Yannick that doesn't want because of this page wasn't as
Mm.
before? Maybe people are gonna see him a bit more vulnerable. Just calling that
Uh.
out a bit.
It's true.
Jannick's eyes are like twitch.
What can I do? You fucking bit. No. Yeah, it's true. I was going through like some intimate, personal, emotional stuff recently, and I didn't want it to be online. So I was kind of like not open to do sessions because I felt scared that these kind of things might come up, and then I can't be authentic or honest about them because I don't want to share them in public. But just speaking about it and also really thinking about it, it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, I'm always in control what to share and what not to share, and there's always something to learn from sessions. So yes, this is me speaking about becoming more open again or being open now to receiving sessions as well, because it's true.
Uh-huh.
I haven't received one actually, right? In this whole 20 episode season.
In this 20 years episodes of our
Been 84
marriage.
years.
But
Yes. Maybe that's
maybe there's I have a cool idea. What if Ashley and I represent parts of you that are maybe parts that you can't really accept, that are maybe like aggressive voices, inner critic, whatever, and we just enter into like a little constellation parts dialogue and see where that leads.
All
And by
Because that
right.
would
constellation,
also,
for people who don't know what that means, that would mean like you and I as the parts will just channel the what we feel is the right question or answer or response. Is that what you mean?
yeah, and also you know when Yannick can briefly share what's bothering him and or what topic he has and what parts are involved, and we just embody the parts. We just go into a role play and we act like the parts, like an inner critic. If he has an inner critic, we actually become that inner critic, and we are embody the voices that are in his head, and he can just talk to us.
How do you
Right.
feel about
So
that,
yeah, let's do it.
Jan?
So I'm sharing, like my task now is to share about parts that are hard for me to accept, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
or
take a deep
something's
breath first and connect inwards before because we're moving into a out of a chatty
Okay.
space and into maybe a space that
Please
involves more.
guide me. Please guide me in this. I want to be guided.
Um, Tim, I can guide a starting point, but like you brought this in and I think you have an idea of how to start it up. So I'm just gonna get Yannick in his body a little bit. Is that okay?
cool.
Okay. You can also maybe join this, Tim. So just taking a moment to close your eyes. Tim as well. I'm also gonna do the same. Taking a moment to feel whether you're sitting, which I think you both are, feeling your sit bone, how you're sitting in your chair, on your stool, noticing your contact points with your feet on the ground, and just seeing if there's any little adjustments that you can make right now to just sit a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more supported, a little bit more soft. Just taking a moment to focus on your natural breathing. So feeling your belly and your chest rising with your gentle inhales. The air tickling your nose with every breath out. Just feeling this gentle ebb and flow of your breath for a moment. Now let's take a couple of slightly deeper breaths to really ground yourself into this moment. So taking a big breath through the nose or the mouth and sighing out with an audible exhale. Take another one of those. And out. Seeing if there's any softness that you can bring to your jaw, to your face, releasing any tension here. Bringing some softness to your shoulders, to your arms, to your chest. your stomach, relaxing your hips, relaxing your legs all the way down to your toes, allowing your full body to just simply breathe here. There's nothing that you need to do. There's no one that you need to be right now. Just letting your body breathe. So I'm going to open the invitation for Tim if you want to bring in some guidance now for welcoming the parts. And in any moment, Jannick, you can always come back to this breath.
So, Yannick, just you tune into your body and into the space that we just opened. What do you experience?
Experience some warmth and spaciousness and tingling and in my hands. And I perceive some constriction, some tightness in my belly and in my throat. Like it's like tight throat as well.
And how does it feel for you to be with that right now?
It's a bit trippy and like there's some confusion coming in. It's like kind of wants to distract me into thousands of different thoughts and analysis of these sensations.
Hmm. And if you're connecting to that feeling in your stomach and in your throat, is there any emotion that comes up when you're being with that just for this moment?
Yeah, so there's two things coming up. I'd say one is kind of like anxiousness that I often interpret as some kind of like jealousy because it's oftentimes related to the relationship or something bad that will happen to me in the future related to my relationship, something that will hurt me. So like a fear of being hurt and also not being good enough and therefore being hurt. And the other one is like a frustration. It's like frustration that I can't just like do what I want and not care about this, that this like takes up so much of my energy and be like you can just, why don't you just have the drive and the purpose to do what you want, and then all of this wouldn't matter anymore, because you'd be happy with what you do, but instead you like over focus on this anxiety. Like this dynamic is present.
Mm. So a part that feels anxious and has fears of very concrete things, I would imagine happening in the future, something related to your relationship right now, and then another part that wants to have space in all of this and is frustrated about the helplessness that also comes with that anxiety.
Yeah, and wants to be focused on, like, be centered and focused and clear in myself, so that like the plan of that frustrated part is that then all the other things wouldn't matter. I wouldn't have to put all my attention on them because I'm so focused on myself and what I want to do.
Mm. And I invite you to tell that part to take 2 steps back just for this moment, this angry part. And just notice what is changing. You tell that part.
There's another part coming in that says, no, 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 this is wrong. I've done like the sad and anxious part and path so many times. Anger and frustration is actually where I need to go. Like this doesn't need to go away. It needs to stay.
Mm. And can you feel the connection and the compassion in that way to the angry part right now? Feeling that it needs to stay, that it's needed, that it's welcome to take space, and that there's actually a compassion and a curiosity within you.
No, this angry part doesn't really feel healthy. It's like more just like aggressive and negative.
Mm. What does it say?
But I can feel compassion maybe towards it. Just I don't
Mm.
like when I'm connected to myself, I don't agree that it should stay.
Mm.
And it says, you are always just anxious, and that will destroy you and your life and your relationship because can you can't like therefore you can't focus on what you want, and you're just always focused on eventualities and the future and the past and dangers, and that's not going to lead you anywhere. That's just leading to a miserable life.
Would you be open, Jannick, to showing us with a facial expression how this part feels? How it's embodying all those words you just said? How it would maybe sit? Look, I even picked up on a bit of disgust in what you were saying then. Judgment.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, really show it on your face. Yeah. Yeah.
like this. It's
Mhm.
like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and follow that impulse if your hands want to keep moving with that, because this is the energy expressing itself. It's moving.
Like don't be such a coward. Like don't be such an anxious little um Waschlappen, whatever that means. um, it's like, yeah, stop doing that. It's almost like beating up this anxious part. It's like enough, enough of this. Like, look at what you're doing. You're destroying our life. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, wake up. Like, get your shit together. Like, you've there's nothing to worry about. So, like, wake up.
Mhm. And just to give yourself a second to really go into that expression, because you're still talking about it from more of a distance, just really let that for like 2 seconds, this like wake up, like whatever it is that feels authentic, to let that part really have its space right now to show itself.
Okay.
Deep
Yeah.
breath.
So it's saying like, okay, I'm so connecting to that energy. It's like punching like this, being like, get the fuck up, get the fuck up. Like, stop being such a coward, you little coward. Get the fuck up. Fuck.
Take a deep breath. What I would have done before this is also got Yannick to get a pillow. So if you need to do any more movements, Yannick, you please be mindful of your hand. Please be mindful that you don't need to go 100% to still really connect to this energy. And for now, maybe just squeezing your hands a little bit, squeezing your fists together, bringing some tension. This doesn't mean anything needs to build up, but just letting this part know, like, okay, like I see that you are angry. I see that you're feeling this. I hear you. Even if I don't fully agree with you, I hear you for now.
Yeah, it feels like I'm still like pretty blended with that part. So I kind of agree with the part. Like, even though it sounds now really aggressive, it's like, yeah, not that aggressive, but it's kind of right, you know, it's true. I need to like stop doing and being so accepting of this miserable part. I need to like not be more strict and yeah, be less sad and anxious and be more like see the things the way they are. This sad part is not seeing things the way things are, and I need to do that, like use my rational mind and stuff like
And
that.
can you allow yourself to receive the parts of the truth from what this is telling you without, doesn't mean you're blended if you can hear some truth in what it's saying.
Yeah, I can receive that, and then there's another part saying it's like, but that's mean because I can't do it. I get that. I don't believe in myself. Like, if I really have to do something different, that's mean. I don't want to have to do anything.
Yeah. So can feel that you're softening right now. And I wonder how that anxious part is doing now.
There's a lot of shame around the anxious part.
Yeah.
So the moment it comes up, there's like shame pressing it back, and like this angry part, frustrated part wakes up again, and it's like, no, 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 like
Yeah.
stay down, stay away.
Yeah. Yeah. And could you ask that angry part, what do you want me, what do you want to protect me from? What happens if that part comes up fully?
Drown in misery and sadness and fear, and stay there forever. And I will lose my partner because they will be fucked up by it, because she can't have any fun with me and enjoy the relationship anymore, because I will always be sad and anxious.
Yeah. I can tell that there's a lot of love in your partner also in that. A lot of gratitude, heartfulness. And can you understand that this part thinking what it thinks, wants to protect you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also invite you to, from that energy, from that softness, and from that compassion, really tell the part that you see him for all that he does. And also tell him that you can see how much he loves your girlfriend and how much that relationship means to him. And also feel how you were touched by that, because that's also important to you. Mm. What do you experience now, Jannick?
Mm. I can sense compassion, and it's touching to see that this means that this part is like valuing my relationship. And I can feel like shame coming up that I focus so much on the relationship, like that it's so important to me. It's like there's a voice saying it should be less important to me, or not less important, but the way I live that truth, that it's important to me, is unhealthy. Like I need to value the relationship differently, not by just over focus and fear, or beating myself or beating that fear up. Both of those ways are not a healthy way to value my relationship.
Mm. Yeah, almost understanding that this part is fighting for something also, no?
You mean this new part or the angry part?
The anger. Anger.
Yeah, it's fighting for my freedom. And like doing things that are good for me, and that, yeah, it goes beyond actually just losing the relationship. It's also I don't wanna feel like this. Like I don't wanna feel anxious all the time.
Yeah. I want to feel free. And can you allow that feeling of freedom to show itself right now? Like, do you feel a connection to that?
Yeah, I feel, yeah, freedom is a part of it, but it's also like feeling purposeful and
Mm.
connected to myself,
Mm.
rather than over focused on holding on, trying to, with all means, stabilizing the relationship and keeping it the way it is so that I don't lose it. It's like sticking to something rather than being connected to myself. So I want to feel connected to myself and my purpose.
Can you take a breath into that feeling right now, Jannick? Breathing in that sense of purposefulness. Really coming to the body feeling. Every breath in, you're saying yes to that feeling. It's freedom to focus on yourself. You're making a sound with your next exhale just to really get your body connected to this process more.
Mm.
Beautiful. We're going to try one of those also with your mouth open. Really let this purposefulness express itself.
Ah.
Yeah. How did that feel? Phew. What are you noticing right now, Jannick?
Yeah, it feels empowering, and like my thoughts are focusing more on like bringing that into reality. Um, yeah, I can sense that. And I can still like observe this, like it's probably coming from my throat, this part that says, it's like almost like nagging. It's like, but you don't know what you want. You don't know what you want. Remember, this doesn't work. And it's dangerous to go for that. Like it means a lot of things have to change, and then you will lose the relationship or whatever. It's like almost like the singing voice there, like devilish.
Before we start rounding this off, I would love to invite you to bring those two parts into both of your hands, the two little fists in front of you. Which hand would the nagging voice be in?
This one.
For those not watching on video, it's your left hand.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so on the right hand is the part that's been
the
starting
right
to
one.
be
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah. Beautiful. So just take a moment to connect back to that powerful part. Like, how would that hand show itself? How would it express this sense of size or personal power, this fluctuating energy? Really tap into that. And it can be in motion, it doesn't have to be still. Yeah, really. Yeah, follow that impulse. Follow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Again, you can take a voice here, you can take a breath if you want to connect to how
Mm.
the sound again of this part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Beautiful. If that motion wants to get bigger, just follow it because this part's really unshielded itself today. Ah,
Yes.
those of
Yes.
you
Yes.
can't
Yes.
see,
Yes.
Yannick's
Yes. Yes.
hand is moving
Yes.
really
Yes.
fast.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. 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 Yes.
beautiful. Now
Yes.
come back, contain that energy slightly. Let that part still be here. Feel it in your fist, feel it present. Now let's start to bring your awareness to the left hand. Notice how does that energy of this slightly nagging, doesn't have to be facing up. Really find a position that your hand wants to be in that really lets this sing-songy, critical, devilish sound, voice. Yeah, beautiful. So those of you who can't see, Yannick's fingers are all kind of moving in different ways. rubbing against each other. They're lower than the right hand. Jannick's face is showing a bit of disgust, curling of the lip. See if there's any sound that wants to come with that, Jannick.
It's like a
Might be split.
snake. It's like
So yeah, really go into that for a second. Bleh. Bleh. Yeah. So maybe coughing that arises, this retching bleh feeling that's arising. Yeah. Now just allowing both of these parts to be present here. Seeing how far away it feels safe for your hands to be from each other, how far away, how much distance is there needed for between these two parts to really let this sense of observation be present. And just allowing that they are both existing right now. It doesn't mean that the right hand needs to overpower the left. Taking a breath into them both just being here for a second. Really invite you to make a sound with every exhale, even if it's small, to really get your breath involved. Yeah. So for those of you watching, there is nothing that needs to happen here, even Jannick, but just acknowledging that these two parts are present is giving them conscious loving awareness and attention, and something will naturally shift. The resolution that we think needs to happen isn't necessarily the hero's story of the right hand. No, both parts are here. Both parts have something to show. What are you noticing at the moment, Jannick?
Yeah, it feels really nice to be in that state of allowing both. And yeah, it seems very like logical and natural. There's like, yeah, of course both are there. Like, what do I expect? What should be? There's no alternative. Of course, there's one part in me that wants to feel empowered and one part that's afraid and like nagging and like saying no, no, no.
Yeah, let's just take a breath into that naturalness of them both being here. We don't need to talk too much. You can just be right now with that. You may notice if there's impulses your hands want to move or to change a bit. Just following your body's cues. Yeah. Now, if we had multiple hours for this and we were going deeper and deeper into a full session, we'd have a lot of space to unpick this more for the sake of this being a demo. Just taking a moment to connect to your heart and thank those two parts for showing themselves. And we're slowly, slowly going to start bringing you out of the inner world. And what I mean by that is take a moment to feel the temperature of the air on your skin, feeling the fabric underneath your fingertips of your shirt. Noticing if there's a smell in your room. Slowly inviting the senses back one by one. And whenever you do at some point want to return back to the sense of sight, perhaps taking some time to look around your room first, away from the screen, being sensitive to the brightness, perhaps looking at your wall or your ceiling, focusing on a couple of things in your room you can see. Knowing that there's absolutely no rush, no timing needed. So take as much space as you need right now. For those of you who aren't watching the video, you'll see Jannick is stretching his body a bit, moving his jaw, just following the natural impulses and signs the body gives of movement that it's needed. So welcome back, Jannick.
Thank you.
How was that for you? In whatever ways feel authentic to share now, because there's probably still some things moving beneath the surface.
Yeah, it was nice. I always love when perspective shifts happen, when it's like you're stuck in one perspective and then you were invited to have a new one, and actually you embody that in that moment. It's not just mental. It's like, yeah, like of course both of those parts are here. Like what did I think? Why did I ever think it's not supposed to be like that? Or yeah, it's like going beyond the old perspective. And it happened a couple of times. And one time I noticed that was meaningful as well, something really old. Like I felt like a child being held and guided by both of you. I felt like a huge distrust in people, not in you, but in the people that were holding me as a child or trying to, or like speaking to me, like when you were saying my name, like, how are you feeling now, Jannick? Or Jannick, now I invite you to, like, particularly connected to my name. It's like, this feels so weird. Like, I don't trust you. Like, it was almost like I was like a little child and they hold me and they tell me something and I can sense they want something from me. They want me to be different. I can't trust them. They don't want good for me. I don't feel at home here. They they are speaking to me as if they care about me, but they don't care about me. And like this sense came up, and that was very meaningful for me to connect to that, whatever it was, sensation. Yeah. And I know this from trips, I think, from psychedelic experiences, this sense of they they just want me to change. Like they act like they're caring, but they just want me to change.
Almost like there's like this undercover agreement that or how can I say this? The sense of like almost feeling like exploited or used. Like
Yeah.
you're nice to me, but underneath I can feel that I need to be someone in order to compensate something for you. And this is like the feeling of, oh yeah, you tell me you love me, and I want to I want to hug you back, but at the same time, it's like, no, something in me tells me, my body, like all of my system tells me, no, something is wrong, but I need to trust you because you're my parent. Like you're my mom, you're my dad. Like I need to trust you because I rely on you. I cannot just, and that way it's more safe to distrust you, to distrust myself because I need to trust you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. And in that moment, it didn't feel like I didn't trust myself, but probably that's what I did. It just felt like I don't trust you. Like I'm gonna play along because I have to, like you said. Like I have to just play along and let you do this, but it doesn't feel loving, doesn't feel like you really care. And I still have this today. Like sometimes when somebody is really treating me very, very lovingly, it creates distrust. It's like,
Mm.
I don't trust you. I don't think what you're saying right now is true. You're being so nice to me. Probably you want it can't be true. Like
Guys, we
you
just came
just
full circle from the first topic of the day, which was the passive aggression and sarcasm of when people are not saying the nice
Yeah,
thing
yeah, 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 yeah.
because they
yeah,
can't trust it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
It's because when you're sarcastic, you're also, you're acting funny, but there's something behind that. Like you're funny to a fault almost.
Oh, thank you for your
And
trust, Jannick, today.
yeah, thank you,
And for
Yannick.
doing our
I
video. Like
think
I
so.
know from the own demo, it's like you have to also shut off that part of knowing like I
Mm,
probably can't go 100% the limit of being filmed or like who's going to see it. Like it is still present just to keep it real. Like if we were in a
mm,
room, just us three, then that would go probably more intense and more wild. I can see like at certain points you were like swallowing a lot and your nostrils were
yeah.
flaring. I was like, he's trying not to cry right now. He's trying not to like let some emotions come up.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a different situation, but this is still like, or even more beautiful, because a lot of people don't go there because they think if I can't go 100%, it's not worth it going there or it doesn't do anything. But actually, these little things and these like tapping in, tapping out, and still being a bit in control, this is beautiful as well. And yeah, sometimes you need 100% zero control release, but it's not the only thing that helps and heals.
Really.
yeah. I found, to round this off, I found really interesting because that was somatically, that was a main theme. Because in the beginning, you already had the two hands. You had the fist, and you had, this wasn't as, as we, like this was just like this, and it was open to receive the beatings. And the fist was still a fist, but somatically, the meaning of the fist changed. It didn't become like a tool for hurting someone. It became almost like a triumph, yeah, like yes, I made it. And that's also, it's also like it's the same movement also, but it has a totally
I love
different
it.
meaning.
I love it. And it's the same. It's like the first one was inward facing. It was beating up a part inside of me. So the
Yes,
anger was
you were beating
directed
yourself up.
inwards. Yeah.
Yes,
Anger inwards. And later on, it was outwards. It was like anger, like yes to my empowerment, yes to my future. Like,
yes,
Highly recommend
yeah,
watching the video of this if you're listening just the audio version of this episode, because you can see a lot more of what we mean by the embodiment and showing the outer expression of these inner parts and emotions. So it's really very fun. So thank you, Yannick.
yes, thank you, Ashley, for um, being so focused on the somatics and like always bringing me back to them, and definitely had to go through some shame, especially doing it on video. But usually when there's shame, there's something to learn.
It was the perfect duo. Tim's going more with the parts aspect, and then it's like just the reminder to come back to the body as well. And it's like the exact combination that you need, actually.
yeah. It's also as a facilitator a very helpful process because I have like my things that I do normally, and then it's almost like, oh, what would someone else do? Like, what would Ashley do? And having the immediate answer, and that's
Yeah.
also, I think, a good sum up of what we talk about here is integrating both the inner aspects, like the more mental, if you call it, like the parts work perspective, and the somatic, and that both are equally as important. Obviously, most people are stuck in the head, which can be the more familiar way and maybe also the less helpful way for some people, but it can also be a good entry point. And I think the work that we do is marrying the two aspects. And also in the session, like the one is more masculine, which I was embodying in this session, and Ashley was more the feminine. Just let go, let your body speak. And I was like being a tad more directive and more guiding in that way. And I can imagine that also, contributed to your feeling of, you know, safety or the process that you've gone through,
Yeah,
being in good
yeah, for
hands.
sure. Being in good
Mommy and
hands, I
Daddy
know
are
that.
very proud of you, Yannick.
Don't joke about this after a session.
Wanna,
That'll be session
hey,
number 3.
buddy, want to throw some balls in the garden?
Okay. Thank you for the listeners. I think we're going to round up here. This was already a very long episode.
Yes.
And yeah, we will see you on the next one. Any final words, Jannick? Because this was your moment at the end here.
It's your moment, Jannick.
Yeah, thank you. I felt like being in touch again with the magic of this work today, and that was very helpful. And I hope all of you listeners will be in touch with the magic of this work very soon, because it's very healing and nourishing. And yeah, let us know in the comments how you liked it, and subscribe, like this video, and see you on the next one. If is there gonna be a next one actually?
We'll figure that
Oh
out.
my God.
See you in the next season.
No.